All right, everybody, a fun weekend of Celtics basketball. We've got Celtics Bucks, Celtics Grizzlies to recap for you, as well as we're going to give you our in or out segment and our stat of the week. That and more coming up next here on Green with Envy. Let's lock in.
Missed free throw, Horford the rebound.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy, Will Weir, checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me today, as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, one and only, Greg Manakis. Happy Monday morning to you, my friend.
Dude, I got a case of the Mondays. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Got a case
what's
of the
going on?
Mondays
Just
right
wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or just what's
little
poppin'?
bit. I'm my job. I work in sales as you do, and for anybody out there that's not familiar with working in sales, I don't know how much like customer facing stuff you do and how many fires you have to
I
put
do a
out.
ton. Yeah.
Oh man. But the email that I sent to 741 last week, where I was like, kind of like, hey, what's going on? Like, I just get so many of those emails coming my way that like I just like dealing with this one customer that just has been a thorn in my side since the moment I met them. And starting the work day and then putting a pause on the work day, coming in to do the pod. Sometimes the work life can affect the way you're feeling coming into something like a podcast. And I want to make sure I'm giving the people what they deserve.
Right.
Right.
And that's the thing I feel like, and goes for I think most jobs, but with sales, because there's so much, like you're saying, there's so much customer interaction that you have, some that go really well and some that are just like, God damn, I can't get a win in any capacity in this scenario.
Right.
Like not
Especially
one
when
thing.
when it's stuff that I have no control over.
Right, exactly. And that happens quite a bit in sales. And so, I've been in this sales game here for quite a bit. Still affects me, but it definitely, the longer you're in it, the more it's like, all right, 20 minutes has gone by, I can get over it. But there are some times where it just sticks around and you can't get rid of it. And hopefully, and honestly, sometimes I come into these same way that you're feeling now, and this is an amazing distraction, and not even just a distraction, it's a great reset. Right? Because it's like, all right, my mind is going to completely go away and be able to talk about something that I love, which is Celtics basketball. And this weekend, Greg, was pretty fun. This was two really good games that the Celtics had this weekend. They end up splitting with the Bucks on Friday night, lose to the Grizz on Saturday. We're talking about each of these games here. But ultimately, Greg, this was 6 games in 9 days for this team. And by the time we got to that Grizzlies game, which I honestly think is one of the funnier games that we've seen in a while, it just had such a weird feel to it. Felt like, Derek White, Khris, that it felt like somebody was going to get hurt. Thank God it seems like the Celtics got away without the injury bug, but it was a nerve-wracking game in that sense. But let's start our weekend recap here. Let's start with that Bucks game that the Celtics were able to pull out a win, 111-105, a really highly competitive game. Previewed this game with our guy Ty Windish from our Blue Wire family. It was the return of Khris Middleton, so the first time all year that we've gotten the full version of the Bucks, although it's the first game back from Middleton, so hard to draw too many concrete conclusions from it. Yeah, he moved well. And you know what kind of surprised me in this game, Greg, was the stat that was, I mean, I know Doc's only been there not even a full year yet, but it was this is only the 9th time he's coached Khris Middleton, Giannis, and Dame in a game together. Like within almost a year. I forget exactly when Doc came in to take over. Yeah, that's what they said. This is the 9th time. That was the 9th time he's had all 3 of those guys available, feeling very Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving-esque with that stat there. But only 9 times has he had them all together. But I thought really this game felt like a battle of superstars, right? It felt a little bit like the Jays versus Dame and Giannis. Dame and Giannis end up with 61 points. The Jays end up with 59 of their own points combined. This is a really competitive game. The first question I want to ask for you, just to start us off here, are the Bucks back on your radar after a competitive game like that, despite the Celtics sweeping the season series 3-0?
Yeah, yeah, and the Bucks have been playing a lot better, since that was a 2-8 start. I still, I almost changed my mind. I probably did if people go back and check the records. I probably did change my mind on air about the Bucks making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I'm feeling good about that pick, that preseason pick. I think that they have the top end talent that they have. It's just like overwhelming. For some teams. I think that they match up really well with the Celtics. I think they match up really well with the Knicks. I think they match up really well with the Cavs. So, that last year, the only reason they really lost was because Giannis got hurt. There, as you said, I was surprised to hear the number is only 9, but if they get Middleton playing, even if it's 25 minutes a night out of Khris Middleton, even in a bench role, like that's such a big depth piece for them. And I thought he looked really good. His numbers weren't great in this game.
Yeah,
He was
2 of
10
10.
from the field. But he did have 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block. And I think that's what really stood out to me is like Khris Middleton's a really smart basketball player on both ends of the court. Before his legs gave out on him, he was a good defender. It's just like
Yeah.
his legs aren't really there for him anymore, as Jaylen Brown just attacked him relentlessly. Khris Middleton, one point, that the one play where he wrapped up Jaylen literally just ran full speed at him. It was just like, take a charge on me, bro. I dare you. You first came back from double ankle surgery. Go ahead, take a charge. So I feel good about, if I'm a Bucks fan, I feel pretty good about them, man. Dame, he looked good. That was the best I've seen Dame Lillard look since I've seen him on the Bucks. So for a full 48, he had those moments in the fourth quarters last year where he played well, but I thought Dame looked good, and Giannis is arguably the second best player in the league.
Giannis is Giannis, and I agree. And that's I'm still in that camp of Giannis is the second best player in the league. I love Jason Tatum. I think he's in that next tier right there with SGA and Luka in that 3 to 5 range. That's kind of how I have my tiers at this point. Jokic, who, good God, what that guy is doing. And they can't even get a fucking win versus the Wizards. He's just by himself at 1. I think Giannis is kind of by himself at 2. And then I got, like I said, that SGA, Luka, and Tatum tier is in that 3 to 5, depending on what your flavor is. But with Giannis, the reminder that I have once again is we cannot appreciate Al Horford enough, because you said Giannis was good in this game, right? Al Horford, I don't watch every Bucks game enough to know this, and I should have asked this when we did our preview, but I feel like Al Horford has to be the best Giannis defender in the league. Like I really struggle to imagine there's someone better, and so some of the matchup data from this game, let's see, Al spent over 9 minutes guarding Giannis, which was basically about 65% of the time that Giannis had the ball in his hand. Giannis was 5 of 15 and then a block from Al. 5 of 15. And the other part is he only got to the free throw line once against Al Horford, only 1 foul for Al Horford in that time. So defending without fouling, like that's just to get one of those is nice against Giannis, right? Just to be competitive and not foul him, or maybe you're sending him to the line and that is your defense, right? You're just hoping that he misses those free throws. What Al can do is just truly amazing. And I've mentioned this so many times before. I can't imagine these Bucks games without Al Horford. I look at what we're gonna do with these back-to-back matchups. I think it was very, it seemed, and we'll see if it was calculated or not, that all right, Al's playing the Milwaukee game because we need him against Giannis, and we could have used him against Jaren Jackson to talk about here in a minute. But I think that was definitely a move here, because when you look at the rest of Giannis's matchup data here, he was 2 of 3 against Jalen, 2 of 3 against Hauser, 3 of 4 against Holiday, 3 for 3 from the field against Tatum, 3 for 3 in the field against Derek White. That's a lot of makes. And so that 5 for 15 with guarding him 65% of the time from your 37, 38-year-old guy, it just cannot be appreciated enough. And Al gets up for these matchups. You can tell it just means something different to him when he knows that this is one of the biggest reasons that, he's irreplaceable for what the Celtics want to accomplish, because of this matchup, because of if a Nuggets matchup is out there, because of if a Sixers matchup is out there. These are the moments that we really, really need Al Horford more than anyone else that we have on our roster. And he just stepped up again. And I have to give my guy some love here, because he just cannot be appreciated enough.
You have to wonder, if Giannis wasn't in the league, would Al Horford still be playing? not that Al Horford's past his prime but he's past his prime, but like not that he's just like completely fallen off a cliff in other games, but like having the motivation to know that each year you are the guy that has to shut down Giannis, like the most
Yeah.
physical freak in the game. I wonder how much internal motivation that's given Al Horford over these years to just like keep going. Like as long as I can guard Giannis and
I
guard
mean, I
him
think it
well,
has to
I'm
because he acts different.
right.
He acts different in these games,
Yeah,
right?
he
No matter
does.
what these games are, he treats every single one of these like the playoff game where he's kind of like doing his version of talking shit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's got like these little things that he's doing.
Well,
He's playing
when
mind
Giannis
games.
pulled him down on that, when he went for that layup, and Giannis grabbed him on the shoulder and pulled him to the ground, and then the refs called a foul on Al. Al did the thing that he does, like just against the Bucks, where he just like
Yeah,
shakes his head, nods. It's like, all right, you're gonna play like that. All right, let's fucking go. I'm gonna hit the biggest shot
yeah,
of the game right after you brick a three. I'm gonna come
right.
down in transition and put the game away. Al gets up for these for these games, and I love that they're giving the Horford family more shine on the
Mhm.
broadcast too, because obviously so much of it is Deuce Tatum, and it was Deuce's 7th birthday. Shout out to Deuce. Did you see the? By the way, did you see the clip of Brooke Lopez talking to Tatum?
The Prince of the Garden. Yeah, I saw that. That
Yeah.
was great. That was unbelievable.
That that was pretty cool. But it's cool. So I had never really seen like Horford's wife before the game, but like on a broadcast. I'd never seen them give her that much love. And then it seems like they're showing Horford's oldest kid a little bit more on the broadcast as
Well,
he's
he's like
on the
on the
bench.
bench
He's a,
for like every
yeah.
game now. I saw I think it was the Grizzlies game. I don't know if they're officially making him like their ball boy. It's almost like when we were playing like Cedar Grove baseball and you had like a little brother who would just be like the bat boy. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
Shout
that
out John
same
Keogh.
exactly. It's kind of that same energy. Kira Murphy on my team as well. Yeah, shout out to you guys. And it was kind of that energy. I'd never really noticed it. And then there was at some point in the Grizzlies game, Tatum and obviously Horford wasn't even playing this game, but it was Tatum and maybe KP were checking in, and it was Horford's son who was just sitting there waiting for like all their bandages and wrappings that they were taking
That's
off,
cool.
and they're just I was like, oh shit, maybe this is like becoming like a thing, like he's like an established ball boy. Like you hear of what were the stories? I think this is Larry Fitzgerald in the NFL. He was like Chris Carter and Randy Moss's ball boy or something like back in the day in Minnesota. So I like the idea of that lineage. But yeah, it's cool to see the Horford family involved, especially just because now Al feels so much like a Celtic, right? He like I know he was gone for 2 years, but he's feels like he's been a Celtic for coming up on a decade here, just about. And so it's always good to see Al get that vindication. But going back to this game a little bit here, looking at the Bucks as a threat, and I'm with you that I think the Bucks they have Giannis, man. They're always going to be a threat. Dame can close you out if he's not grifting, he can close you out. He tried to grift in this
God.
one, didn't work out.
Let's talk about Dame the Grifter here in a second. But before we move off of Giannis, we got to talk about Jalen and Giannis getting into it again, man. I know you said you were out at a Christmas party, so you were
Mhm.
unable to watch the
I
game
I watched I
live.
rewatched the whole game, yeah. Um, I like this, man. I like it. I mean, it's kind of similar to Al getting up for Giannis, like, okay, we're playing this way. Let's fucking go. Like the NBA needs more of this, man. They need more of it. I mean, it was bullshit that Jalen was the one who got technical because Giannis clearly threw an elbow, right? Like, and just it was the retaliator is the one that got caught. But I like this.
I mean,
The
Jalen
NBA
did, to
needs
be
it.
fair to Giannis, Jalen did do the too small thing and then just like ran at Giannis's body. So like Giannis just kind of gave him a little chicken wing, which elbows dirty all the time. But Jalen, it was not like Jalen was completely innocent in that.
Right, and I'm not trying to say he was. Like, I mean, Jalen's instigating the whole thing, which I'm fine with. Like, I want more of this, and technical whatever. Like, it's fine. I want a little bit more tension in my basketball. I like the physical tension of shit. What's gonna happen the next time Giannis drives? What's gonna happen the next time Jalen goes, flying down the lane and runs through one of the Milwaukee Bucks, like you talked about with Khris Middleton. Like that's good for the game. I'm all in for it.
Yeah, and I love that Jalen, he's a big Al is too, but he loves pointing the finger at somebody, and Jalen like kind of steps to them. Jalen's
Yeah,
grandfather was a professional boxer. Jalen
yeah.
Brown trains Muay Thai. Like Jalen can probably throw down at the end of the day. He can probably throw down. And I kind of want to see it. I would love to see
I mean,
Jalen
he's
Brown
probably the
get in a
closest thing the
scuffle.
Celtics have to an enforcer, right? Would be Jalen Brown.
Yeah, him and Peyton Pritchard.
I
Peyton Pritchard's
mean,
just out there talking shit.
Pritchard's just out there talking. He's just not afraid, right? Pritchard's the
Yeah.
little scrappy guy that like is just not afraid. But I think I think Jalen's, as far as being imposing, and like there's part of this that I kind of wish Kristaps was a little bit more of it, but also I just don't want Kristaps to get hurt, so I don't need him anywhere near this type of stuff. But
Kata talks a lot of shit and throws elbows around.
Who does?
Kata.
Kata. Yeah, I think Jalen is the title of the protector of the Celtics, basically the muscle for the Celtics for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about Dame though. He was.
Go ahead. You want to talk about his Grifton? Tell me what you're thinking about his Grifton, because that was honestly the two biggest plays of this game were down the stretch, because this was such a tight game, was him grifting for a three instead of just playing basketball and not getting a call. And then the Giannis three that you already mentioned, which turned into a transition three for Al. Both of those led to buckets on the other end for the Celtics, which put them up by, I think, 4 or 5 with just a few seconds left. And so then it became a foul game, basically. And that was kind of the difference, was those two plays by their two superstars, and then our guys making plays on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up, I wasn't even going to talk about the play at the end where he tried to grift for a three and didn't get it, but that's just a great kind of example of why grifting just shouldn't work in the NBA, because like you can't try and win the game on a foul shot. Like you just can't do it. It's just it's such a bad look. Like if the referees fall for that shit, fans are going to go, like, it's not good. It's not a good product for fans to watch, for people to just be out there grifting. And I love the entire game. They didn't give Dame Lillard one grifting call. And it's the first time I've ever seen that happen. And I would love if the entire NBA just got rid of foul baiting and foul merchanting. Like even when Tatum does it, it pisses me off. You know what I mean? Like I don't like seeing anybody do it. It's just such a cheap way to play basketball. If you're not like going if someone's coming at, if you like shot fake and they're literally running at you and all you have to do is kind of just give them that shoulder and go up, that's fine
been the
with
game
that.
for years. That's that's just part of it. Like when you like you said, when you pump fake, someone's hovering over you, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go up and get 3 free shots or get 2 free shots.
Right.
That's part of it. Totally fine with that. I'm with you there.
Right, but it's the shit where like Dame Lillard coming off a screen. It's like Isaiah Thomas did it for the Celtics and got away with it, and we loved it when Isaiah Thomas did it. But that was kind of like the beginning of it, coming off the screen.
5'9". You can get away with it when you're 5'9".
Stopping on a dime and people running into you, or like you're coming off of a screen and you feel somebody's hand on your hip. So the moment you catch the ball, you just flail and throw the ball up at the rim because technically they have their hand on your hip. Like that shouldn't be an actual foul, shooting foul situation. And I'm glad the refs just said, no, Dame, we're not giving you these bullshit calls. Doc Rivers was yelling at the refs and they just held firm on that belief that that's not a shooting foul. And I'm all for it. If the NBA figures out a way to get rid of that, if the refs just have the fucking gall to tell players like Dame Lillard, we're not giving you that call anymore, the game's going to be better for it.
Is Chris Paul the godfather of all this?
He's the godfather of a lot of things. Yeah, I mean, he definitely is a foul.
He definitely popularized it quite a bit, right? Like and I mean, he just became the all-time second in all-time assists just the other night. So I mean, he's been around for quite a while, influenced quite many players, you know. So
well, I mean,
definitely,
Chris Paul never really did it. He never really did it like to the extent that you see Dame doing it coming off the screens. Chris Paul was more like, I'm going to get you in jail, put you on my hip, and then stop on a dime, and you're going to run into me from behind. That was kind of like the Chris Paul thing that he would always do. And he would do that in full court, obviously.
Right.
Like Trae Young started doing that a lot. And to me, that seems like a little bit less of foul baiting than coming off the screen. Cause like you understand someone is running full speed behind you. If you stop on a dime and go up and they run into you, like that's kind of on the defender, right? I'm not as much. I don't have as much of an issue with that play, but it's the play coming off the screen on the perimeter that really pisses me off.
Yeah, that's fair. And last point on this game here, and
I got one more point on it too.
Okay. So the Bucks, I'm still always going to consider them a contender because they have Giannis, right? And Dame. I'm going to throw Dame in that as well. You got Giannis, Dame, and if Middleton can show anything, all right, you guys are legit. Then everything can, at least with some of your role players, can start to fall into place. What has to be concerning leaving this game, obviously no KP, which, hey, that could happen at any time, right? As we saw in the Grizzlies game, got worried. That could happen anytime, no KP. But in this game, 0 points from Peyton Pritchard, 0 of 7 from 3 for Derek White, add in no KP, and you lose by 6. That's where it's a little concerning if you're the Bucks. Now, I know Doc Rivers was harping on we have to stop Peyton Pritchard, and they certainly, I mean, it's Peyton's worst game of the year, 0 of 3, didn't score a point. Derek White couldn't hit a 3-point shot for his life, somehow still ended up plus 12 with 6 rebounds and 7 assists. That's just Derek White in a nutshell. Can't have a bad game even when he tries. And, but you're getting 0 of 10 from 3 from those two guys who are the best, 2 of the 3 best catch and shoot guys in the entire league, just knock down 3-point shooters. That's not going to happen very often. And then you add in no KP. That's got to be the part where I think as a Celtics fan, I walk away and I respect the Bucks, but I don't fear the Bucks.
Yeah. Why would you? They can't beat us.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to be there in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I don't see them beating us unless Giannis really develops a jump shot or learns how to hit free throws. Like, that's still his Achilles heel at the end of the day, is like Giannis pulling up for 3 in transition is just silly. But the last point I wanted,
the crazy part of him pulling up for that 3 is he hadn't shot a 3 all game. Like, he's done a really good job of eliminating that this year and being more of trying to develop like that Dirk mid-range without having the 3-point shot. And then for him to take his first 3 all game in that spot was an absolute bananas choice by him.
It's the Al Horford effect. But I wanted to talk a little bit about an adjustment that Joe Mazzulla made in that game, because I really think that Tatum actually really struggles to create when Giannis is on the court. Like, Giannis plays really good isolation defense on him on the perimeter. He's always like Tatum, all the fakes that Tatum does out in the perimeter, he can't get by Giannis, right? He always has to give the ball up or settle for a really heavily contested step back 3. And in this game, I really wonder, and I didn't hear anybody talk about it, did Joe Mazzulla specifically change Jason Tatum's minutes to match when Giannis went to the bench? Because that's what Tatum in the first quarter normally plays the whole first quarter. Jaylen Brown did have it going, but he took out Tatum in the first and third quarters with about 5 minutes left, because Giannis normally, he'll play a majority of that first quarter. I think they've changed his rotation this year. They used to take Giannis out like 4 minutes into the game every game, but he plays more of the first and third quarter now. And Tatum was able to lead the second unit with Giannis on the bench. And I feel like that's where Tatum really developed his rhythm in this game, when Giannis was on the bench. And it's just something that really stood out to me, because I was wondering how they were going to get Tatum going in against the Bucks. Even though he's had some big games against the Bucks, I do think he struggles to some degree with Giannis on the court. And it looked like Mazzulla made a conscious decision to match those minutes when Giannis was on the bench with Tatum on the court.
Yeah, Mazzulla's been going with his gut quite a bit these days, and I kind of like it. I like it that he clearly has a plan, but he's not afraid to change from that plan, right? Like, if whether it was because Jalen had it going on, or it's for the reasons that you said, maybe it was a predetermined game plan of let's try to get Tatum a few moments without Giannis on the court, right? So I like that from Joe Mazzulla this year. Let's go to the Saturday night game here, which was the return of Marcus Smart and the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies ended up getting a win in this one here at Boston, 127-121. As we mentioned at the top here, this was the final 6 games in 9 days. That's a hell of a stretch in the NBA these days. 6 games in 9 days. This was the final game of that, and it definitely looked and felt like it, because the Celtics just did not have a rhythm in this one. It was kind of a weird cadence to it. But let's just start with the Marcus Smart part of this here, Greg. Did you end up feeling anything when Marcus Smart got back out there?
I didn't feel anything. And he made 0 impact on this game. He was 1 for 11. He looked completely washed up, like completely washed up.
Supposedly he's been looking a lot better lately, but this. I don't know if maybe the return was in his head, but this looked like the worst version of Marcus Smart.
Yeah, and then he just like decided to take over Drew Holiday's body for the entire game too.
Yeah, that was a tough one. So in this game here, the Grizzlies kind of unleashed the Golden State Jaylen Brown game plan, but insert Drew Holiday in the Jaylen Brown role, and they were just going to let Drew shoot. And Drew obliged at least to start the game, and then they kind of had to shift away from it because it was just a rough night for Drew Holiday. He was 8 of 26 overall, 4 of 17 from 3. And Greg, I felt bad for Drew. I played pickup ball yesterday morning, and first game of pickup, I got a lot of open looks, and all I can think in my head is, damn, I feel like Drew Holiday right now. Just can't get it to
Were you
go.
bricking him? You're
Bricking him early. I got hot late, but first game just wasn't warmed up enough, and I was just like, damn, these are the. It was the Drew Holiday thing where it's like, these are the right shots. I'm taking the right shot. I just can't make it right now, and that's really what happened with Drew Holiday. What was your thoughts on the Grizzlies utilizing the strategy, and then also how you think the Celtics and Joe Mazzulla reacted, or how they could have reacted differently?
I mean, I thought it was a really interesting strategy because Drew has not been shooting the ball well this year, even from the corners where he was the leader in
I have
3-point
more on that
percentage.
later, so don't ruin
Okay.
that completely if you haven't. I've got more on that
Okay,
later, but yeah,
I'll
but
hold
that
it.
is
And that's
correct.
it's going to be one of our stats of the week. But if you're just looking at his shot chart, 4 for 17 from 3. He shot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 above the break threes. So he shot 10 corner threes in that game. Above the break threes, he was 1 for 7 on those above the break threes. And they were just daring him to shoot. And they had Jaren Jackson on him, right? So that was the matchup that they had. Jaren Jackson guarding Drew Holiday, where they put Drew Holiday in the corner, which allowed Jaren Jackson to also linger on the baseline, which was, to me, just not where you want Jaren Jackson. You want him away from the hoop as much as you can. So I texted out to our group at one point, and I was like, I'm putting Drew Holiday as either the lead ball handler, or I'm putting him as the screener to get Jaren Jackson away from the basket, just to see if we can start getting some more rim pressure, because Jackson was a problem in that game on both ends of the court. And I just, that was the adjustment that I would have made, but they ended up just like taking Drew Holiday out and going with Peyton Pritchard down the stretch in that game. But before they did that, I thought that they should have figured out more ways to get Drew Holiday in pick and roll actions out in the perimeter. And I just thought they did a bad job of not making that adjustment.
Yeah, I think the interesting part for me is, we kind of touched on this the other day with Peyton Pritchard. I can't remember after which game it was, but it was like, man, you got to start doubling Peyton. You got to have, the other teams are gonna have to make adjustments, and it's like, well, how are they going to do that? They got to pick your poison, right? And so this is an example of a team choosing, all right, let's pick our poison. Drew Holiday. We're not right now. You're not shooting the ball great. We're gonna back off you. We're gonna say, hey, go ahead and take whatever shot you want. We'll live with it, and we want to shut down everybody else, right? And so, it is definitely something, and a lot of the Celtics mentioned this kind of in the post game, like, yeah, maybe we expect to see it again because it kind of worked tonight, right? So, and I wouldn't say I'm concerned with Drew Holiday missing all those shots, because he's got a track record of being a pretty good shooter, right? Like he's a 38 to 40% shooter for most of his career. Like that's been kind of what he lives at, and most of that's been with him as more of a primary ball handler than he's been, obviously with the Celtics. And so it's no longer a small sample size, but it is a concerning sample size that he's shooting overall. And I'll get to some specific numbers here later, but shooting 32% from 3, like that is concerning. And I know at different points last year when we were trying to figure out what's going to be what teams will settle with, there was a stretch of the year last year where KP was still a threat, but he really wasn't shooting it great. And we were like, I wonder if that's just what teams will live with is, hey, we're just not going to go all the way out to contest KP. And if he's going to shoot, 32% like he has over a smaller stretch, then we'll kind of, we'll dare you to do that first before we commit and reach and, rearrange our game plan. And so maybe that becomes Drew Holiday. I don't know. But it is something that I think is good for the Celtics to see. And to your point, I think there probably could have been a better or quicker adjustment, whether it's, like you said, just putting him in more actions, because then you're just giving, if he's just going to sit in that corner, you're giving into their game plan of Jaren Jackson being able to be near the rim, right? And Jaren Jackson is one of the best defenders 2 years ago, defensive player of the year. And I think this game, specifically with Jaren Jackson, you said you think that's the best you've ever seen him. I think this is the best I've ever seen Jaren Jackson was
Yeah.
in this game. He was really, really good in this game. 27 points, 9 rebounds, had 3 steals, 4 blocks, 11 of 19 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3. I like Jaren Jackson. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little underwhelmed at his true impact on certain games. Not the case in this one. In this one, he, as much as Ja had a great game, I really think that Jaren Jackson was probably the biggest differentiator in what was a very weird contest, to be clear. But I think Jaren Jackson was the difference maker between these two teams on Saturday night.
He was the best player on the court. on
Yeah,
a
he was
game that
awesome.
had Jason Tatum, John Morant, and Jaylen Brown. He was the best player on the court, both ends of the court. They tried desperately to figure out a way to cover him. They ended up going with Kada on him, and then Kada just couldn't figure out that Jaren Jackson likes going left, so Jaren Jackson was abusing him.
Scal kept bringing that up. He was like, Scal was like, I don't know if anyone's told him, but Jaren Jackson always likes to go left. And then it
Yeah.
happened like 3 more times immediately after Scal said that.
Yeah, and they tried to put Jaylen Brown on him, and Jaylen couldn't do anything with him. I was hoping that would be the adjustment to shut him down, but when Jaylen took away his left, he just turned over his other shoulder and started making right-handed floaters. So got to give him credit, man. Jaren Jackson was awesome. I think if we had Al Horford's the primary matchup there, and I think he does a much better job than anybody else could. This was a weird game, to your point. The lineup combinations, Celtics went double big for majority of this one, including a Kornet-Kada double big lineup. So this was a weird game. 6 game in 9 nights, second game of back-to-back against a team that has the second fastest pace in the league, and they were out running. I really like what I saw from the Grizzlies.
They're deep, man. They don't bring in anybody that can't play, right? Like Scal was harping on this. Like all of these dudes can deck the ball and can get into the paint, kick it back out. Their ball movement was pretty exceptional in this game at different points.
Yeah, and I got my first look at Jalen Wells. I got my first look at Jay Huff. Both guys I thought were pretty impressive. Your boy Santi Aldama only played 16 minutes, and he can really hoop.
I know.
So it was just impressive to see that from the Grizzlies, and then obviously John Morant just being amazing. Like I said, Jaren Jackson was the best player in this game, but it was probably still Ja. He had 32. Yeah, Ja was the best player in this game. 32, 9 and 9, 2 steals, and that insane dunk on the baseline.
That was crazy, man. Even that dunk was so crazy. Boston, the fans in the arena couldn't hate it. Right? Like you could feel they were just like, oh, that's one of the coolest things I'm ever gonna see in an NBA game. I'm kind of happy I was here for that, right? Like that
on my couch, I literally yelled, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, exactly. And like it's very rare that you get a moment where you're at home that something makes you go, "Oh shit!" And that was one of those moments. Just insane from the man who no longer plans to dunk in NBA games. Just a double pump in traffic, jamming on a 7'2" Latvian or 7'3" Latvian. But yeah, John Morant was awesome. I mean, when he goes, John Morant is one of those players where you're gonna dare him to shoot, but the nights that he makes those, what are you gonna do? You're just kind of fucked the rest of the way. He went 4 of 6 from 3.
Yeah.
Right. And so when he has that going, that's just like I don't know what else to do with him in that moment. And the Grizz are legit, man. That's one thing I walked away from this game is just they're very legit. They're, I really like their core of guys, and I like how deep that they can go with their team and all the dudes that would come in off the bench. And this is, Marcus Smart was trash in this game. 1 of 11, 1 of 6, 3 points, and just a really bad Marcus Smart game. And by all accounts, it was very weird. Marcus Smart. I'm gonna give him a pass, and that it was something with the returns was like fucking with him a little bit. I don't know, but it didn't look like the Marcus Smart I was expecting to see Marcus Smart out there trying to make a point, maybe. Or even just with his energy and hustle. And like to your point, he was very lethargic. There was no energy to his game, which was kind of weird to see in this spot because he's a guy that we've known for so long gets up for these type of spots where even if his shot's not off, he's diving on the floor. He's picking up, and maybe he just felt weird picking up Jalen or Jason in the
looked like it.
Marcus Smart type of manner. But outside of that, you just have so many guys that make contributions for this team. Brandon Clark was really good in this game as well, too. That's a guy that people forget was out all
good. Good to see him back.
Yeah, so I think I walk away from this game and I Celtics 6 game in 9 days. They put up a fight. They got out unscathed as far as injury goes. There was that Kristaps scare towards the end of the first half, which blew up social media. Everybody was worried about that. He came back out and played the second half. Derek White, I thought a couple different times was going to get injured. So I'm glad the Celtics walked away from this one without adding to the injury list. But I did walk away thinking the Grizzlies are a real contender in the West.
Yeah. Let's get into our stat of the week in and out.
Let's do it. All right, let's go to stat of the week because that just plays right off of what we were talking about here with Drew Holiday. So I had started thinking about Drew Holiday's shooting, even starting. He had a really good shooting night against the Bucks, but his first shot was an air ball. I think he had 2 different air balls against the Bucks that were just really, really off. And so I was like, all right, maybe I got to start thinking about Drew Holiday. He ended up going 4 of 9 in that game, but obviously after the Grizzlies game, a lot of his percentages went plummeting. So this is from Chris Forsberg. He tweeted this out yesterday about the corner threes that we were mentioning. Last year, overall from the corner, Drew Holiday was 55 of 91, 60.4%, which is insane. Like, I didn't expect him necessarily replicate that. Left corner, 58.8%. Right corner, 62.5%. This year, overall, he's already shot 49 threes from the corner. So he's on pace to well surpass that 91 threes from the corner. However, he's only 15 of 49 from the corner, 30.6%. Left corner, 10 of 28, 35.7. Right corner, 5 of 19, 26.3%. That's tough. That's a real large drop off. And, overall, Drew's shooting 43% from the field. He's shooting 32% from 3 overall, regardless of what spot on the floor it is. And, like I said, we're now a little past the quarter mark into the season. We can eradicate the small sample size from our verbiage here. It's not a small sample size. It's now just a concerning sample size. Like I said, he's got a track record that I feel confident that he should be able to, bring that back up to, high 30s. But we might not be getting this version of Drew. And it's interesting to see how teams start to play this after the strategy the Grizzlies used. But, him shooting, nearly 53s and shooting it at 30%, that's not great.
Yeah, and like to the point that Drew has a good track record, like I agree to some degree based off of the percentages, but Drew, like he's a very streaky shooter and he can get in his own head. And I think it's interesting to kind of play the mental game with Drew because he kind of thrives off of, ball movement. He thrives off of quick catch and shoot. He likes doing that little through the legs jump back 3-pointer. That's a very rhythmic dribble. He shoots a lot of threes in transition. But if you just kind of like mess with Drew Holiday's head on his shot, it's just interesting to see how that might play out, in the long term. Like the Grizzlies did in this game. But I like seeing the Grizzlies try this out in a December game because it gives the Celtics plenty of time to scheme, if a team decides to leave Drew Holiday in the corner and Drew's not hitting his shot, what do we do instead? And they were unable to figure it out in that game, but they're gonna game plan for that in the future. Joe Mazzulla is gonna have plenty of counters ready. So long term, I'm not too concerned about the strategy against that. It's just the numbers for Drew Holiday shooting. You obviously want to see him somewhere in the 40s on wide open threes. He's probably not going to be 60% like he was last year, but you got to see that number come up. A lot of the shots were like, they weren't off left or right. They're just like a little short or a little long. So he's still shooting that thing straight. So I think
he has a little bit of hesitation right now, right? Just in general of like, should I be letting this go? Should I drive it? Should I post up? Like, it just feels like a lot of his offensive movements have a certain level of unsure, which I think we did see this a little bit at the beginning of last year when he was trying to figure out who he is in this offense. So it's a little weird to see it now that it feels like, oh, we kind of had an idea of what this looks like, but like you said, it might just be a confidence thing because he's not shooting it well.
Yeah, and Drew's still going to make all the little plays, which I was surprised that they didn't go back to him, down the stretch in the fourth quarter there against the Grizzlies, because I still would bet on Drew Holiday at the end of the day to make a game-winning play. So I was a little upset we didn't see him at the end of that game, but I think those stats are pretty, eye-popping stats.
Yeah.
Okay, my stats are going to be very simple. I'm just going to go Nikola Jokic box score last couple games. The loss against the Wizards the other night, he had 56 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists, and then they smoked the Hawks last night where he had 48 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists. Best player in basketball. It's just like, what is the actual gap between him and the rest of the league? Because he's, people are talking about, like, I heard Simmons talking about where is he going to rank like as an all-time great. If you ended his career right now and said this is the end of Nikola Jokic and just like took the peak of what we just got out of Jokic, Jesus, man, like he doesn't have the rings, but God,
yeah. So that's the weird part, right? Is like we'll see how the season plays out for the Nuggets, but they're pacing to be a play-in team right now. Like that's not great. So you think about this peak where he might get potentially 4 MVPs in 5 years. That's some LeBron shit, right? LeBron did that, back in his Cavs Heatles days, and to walk away with that with really, I think they made the second round once in that time frame, and then they won the championship. But other than that, they made the second round once, and they lost to the Timberwolves last year, and we'll see how this year plays out. Like that is really weird to look back at like that being the case, and we know that he's got never played with an all-star, certainly never played with an all-NBA guy. Like the Nuggets have not done him a great service, and mostly Jamal Murray's not doing him a great service this year. Like Jamal Murray is probably the biggest reason for that. But when you think of Jokic historically, I honestly, I was listening to that same conversation. Like we lived through Shaq, and I was trying to think. That's like the easiest one for me to kind of think about is like I think Shaq's probably somewhere towards the bottom of the top 10 players of all time, somewhere in that 8 to 12 range is probably where he falls. And he's got 4 championships. So like it becomes really weird to look at Shaq with as dominant as he is and as dominant as Jokic is. And then you look at the 4-1, but then again, Shaq played with Kobe. Shaq played with Dwayne Wade. Like Jokic has nobody like that. So it is going to be really interesting to see historically how this all plays out. But there's no doubt that it's, and I was saying this when we were talking about Giannis and Tatum, like Giannis for me is number 2, but Jokic is just by far and away clear number 1. Like it's his own tier. It's a Jokic tier. There's nobody that I think at this time that you could even make even close to an argument that they're more meaningful, impactful, and just straight up better than Nikola Jokic.
10 straight years of over 20 points. He has been all NBA first or second team 4 of the last 6 years. Finish in the top 10 MVP voting all the way back to 2018, 2019. So, yeah, man, it's going to be really interesting to see where he ranks all time when it's all said and done. Hopefully he decides to play, well into his 30s and doesn't call it quits to go ride horses.
It really does feel like it. Like, honestly, like you just one day be like, all right, I'm done. And we'll just never hear from him again. He'll be even less than we hear from Tim Duncan. Will we ever hear from Nikola Jokic again once he decides to retire? All right, let's go to our in or out, Greg. What do you got for us here?
Okay, I don't know if you saw this, but I posted on our Blue Sky account my fun as hell 2028 USA basketball roster. And we're just going to go position by position. And I just want you to let me know other candidates that you would throw in there. Okay. So I'm going to read it out for you. Guards. I have Ja Morant, LaMelo Ball, and Peyton Pritchard.
I like this. Once again, this is fun as hell, right? This is not the actual team that you wouldn't necessarily compile, but just fun as hell. Ja Morant, definitely no complaint. LaMelo Ball, okay, let's put him to the side. Peyton Pritchard, I like this addition because Peyton Pritchard, I was thinking about this after you put this out. Peyton Pritchard is kind of the guards that you think about in Olympic basketball that would give a Team USA trouble. And now we're just kind of flipping the script because it would be, who's that little Lithuanian guard that kept shooting? Or who's that little, Serbian guard?
Patty Mills.
Yeah, exactly. Peyton Pritchard in Olympic play. I could 100% envision just flipping the script on that with Team USA. So I like that. LaMelo Ball's fun. So yeah, if the list is fun as hell, it's not who I would actually put. So fun as hell. I've got nothing on that one. That's good.
Is there anybody? Let's talk about who you would actually put. Is there? Just give me like 1 or 2 names. Thinking to 2028, projecting who might be a guard that you see on there.
Yeah, I don't know if he fits into this next category that you have here, but Donovan Mitchell, that would be somebody that I'm thinking of. He might go in that next category. I mean, even Darius Garland, I don't know, maybe, but probably not. To be honest, more Donovan Mitchell, I would think about. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else off the top of my head. I'm just thinking going through teams in the league right now. See who else? Jalen Brunson would be, if we're talking, he's not fun as hell, but he's, if you're just trying to get a win. I saw you tweet about, I think you tweeted about this earlier, Jalen Suggs. Can I interest you in some defense? Like that might be a guy that I look to.
He's the guy I was thinking of. I was thinking of him and Castle. Yeah. Him and Castle. I really like.
Yeah, if you need a little defense, they're the new Derek White, Drew Holiday that you might have on your team. Would be something in that vein.
Okay, guards. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Williams, Grady Dick.
I feel like you've been on the Grady Dick train this year. I feel like I either I've
Heavy
seen you,
on the
I don't
Dick
think we've
train.
actually you're on the Dick train for sure. We're gonna keep saying it because it's fun. I don't know if you've talked to me about this, or maybe I've just seen you like tweet it without telling me sometimes about like something Grady Dick has done.
I think he's
but
awesome.
No, he's been good when I've seen him. I have no complaints about it, but I don't think we've actually talked it out is my thing. So tell me what you like most about him.
He's 6'7", 6'8", and he's a really good shooter off of movement. He's a really smart cutter. He's really competitive, and he's got a little, fuck you attitude to him, and I really like that. I was really skeptical on him coming into the league, so I think that's part of it, as I didn't think he was going to be good at all. And the fact that he's as good as he is already, I think like my expectations versus his performance at this point, there's just such a gap between those two things that he's just really impressed me. Where like Jalen Suggs, on the other hand, that when we were about to go into that draft, I was like, I would trade everything for Jalen Suggs. Like, I loved Jalen Suggs.
And it's taken a while to get to the point where it's like, okay, now I'm back, right? Like,
right,
he had a little bit of a
exactly.
slower development. Yeah.
Exactly. So Grady Dick's kind of the opposite of that. And I just think he'd be a really good international player as well. And then Jalen Williams is a beast, and Cade Cunningham is, he's finally reaching his potential this year, and he looks awesome.
Yeah. From a fun perspective, I don't think there's anyone that you're missing that I would jump to here. From a realistic perspective, of course we're missing. Well, I mean, even Anthony Edwards should probably be on here. I understand.
Yeah.
That. I understand you not putting him on here, but I mean, when we're talking about fun as hell and a guy who can go flying through the air, imagine a backcourt of him and Ja just being like, if Ja decides he wants to dunk again, they're just like dunk off.
Yeah.
In game.
Yeah. No,
like,
that's the biggest omission from this list for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think Devin Booker's probably going to be on this team, just lineage of Team USA when we're looking at it. Hey, that's fine. I wouldn't put him on the fun team, but I'm just saying on the actual team. Don't think there's anyone else here that you're missing. No, but I like these for fun players. Let's keep going.
All right, forwards: Jason Tatum, Cooper Flagg, and AJ DeBonsa, the kid from Massachusetts who's playing in Utah.
Brockton, shout out.
Yeah.
I don't think he's made his official college call for next year, but I know he's down to the Final Four. Cooper Flagg, I still got to catch a full game. I've only caught the highlights so far. I need to tune into a full Duke game.
That's our homework assignment, right?
I still got it on the brain. But I got nothing on this. Just everyone, I mean, I was already in on Cooper Flagg based off the reviews he got in the select, right? When he was there and he was competing against all Team USA this year, and everyone was like, yeah, he belonged. And it was like, oh shit, that's like an intense collection of NBA players that he's hanging with. And then AJ is supposed to be the real deal, man. So I'm excited to get a look at him. And then you get Tatum. I got nothing on that. That's Tatum would be on both of these lists. Tatum would be on the exciting list, and Tatum would be on the actual team.
Yeah, as I was making it, I was like trying to find a balance for like, this is just my fun as hell team, but also a team that could win gold. So I feel like I had to have Tatum on there. And it's Celtics, Celtics.
Yeah.
Okay, my big men, I got Evan Mobley, Chet Holmgren, and Paolo Banchero, which I think probably will be.
That's like a realistic
guys.
Thing. Yeah, that's extremely realistic. I'm trying to think of. I mean, they may still have Bam on that team just because Bam, Booker, and Tatum are kind of the guys going for like the three-peats of their gold medals. So like I think Bam would probably still be in there as well. But if you have Bam, Mobley, Holmgren, and Paolo, I mean, the only thing that and we talked about this when we did, during the Olympics of looking ahead, the only thing that's missing there, and maybe it's Paolo, is just kind of like a bigger, thicker guy that can go against like some of the international teams have like the Jonas Valanciunases or the Jokic's, right? That are just kind of big bully ball. And, that's where maybe Derek Lively in 3 years, as he continues to get bigger, might be a candidate or something like that. But I like that. All right. I'm going to make my in or out super quick here because it's not even basketball related. It was just something I ate last night that I really liked. You ever had a mochi donut?
No. Tell me about it.
So I looked it up. So it's like a Japanese it's a Japanese rice cake or dessert made from pounded glutinous rice. It's really, really tasty. So we went to go get some ramen last night, and unfortunately it was closed, but it was in this little like Asian mart that had a few different shops. So after dinner, I was like, yeah, I need a little dessert, and just found this little mochi donut spot. So
What's
it's
it
like
called?
it was called mochi. I think it's just literally called mochi donut or mochi nut, maybe is what it was called, because they had a couple other like items. But dude, didn't know what to expect.
Mochi nut. Okay.
It's got this like kind of like marshmallowy like consistency to it that I wasn't expecting, but absolutely delicious. So I don't know if wherever
I
you
don't
listen
like
to this,
marshmallows.
What's up?
I don't like marshmallows, so I think I'd be out.
I don't individually. I'm with you. Like I would never sit here and just eat a marshmallow. So I was a little surprised. So it's like the consistency of it. It doesn't taste like a marshmallow, but I like it has like a little bit of like a chewier substance to it, like a candy almost. Like it's kind of tough to describe. But it's not a 1-to-1 with a marshmallow. So I'm with you. I would never just sit here and eat a marshmallow. But yeah, really, really good. Mochi donut, got a churro one and got a chocolate covered one. Awesome. I really enjoy it. I plan on going back. In fact, next time we hang out, I may just bring a box of mochi donuts just so you can try them out.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Sounds good. What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Haven't eaten yet. Just a cup of coffee so far.
Okay. All right. Just talking about donuts just made me think about breakfast. So I just want to ask you that.
I got to look up how bad these are for you, because I doubt they're good for you, but I could eat donuts every day. It's so hard to eat donuts like once a month, basically, which is kind of where I'm at these days, because I could eat them way more often. They're so cheap and they're so easily accessible that it's like, oh, God, this would be so easy.
I went protein pancakes. I got up early and made breakfast for Danielle.
Like
so
that.
I had
Do you have the little?
What are they?
Are they specific protein pancakes? Like they come in a package?
The Kodiak.
I forget. I have some as well. I don't know what the brand is, but I have some in my fridges or my freezer as well. It's like a 3-pack. Throw them in. It's like super simple, super easy.
Nice.
Big fan of those. They're really good just for like quick. Sometimes I scramble some eggs with them. Perfect little breakfast. Cool. Well, that's gonna do it for this episode here of Green with Envy. Light week for the Celtics here, guys. So not a lot of content unless something happens that we are not expecting. It's going to be reserved for the NBA Cup this week. So Celtics in the midst right now. We're recording this Monday morning. They're off tonight. They're off Tuesday. They're off Wednesday. Thursday, they host Detroit, and then Friday, we'll do a coffee and Celtics at an adjusted time. So instead of our usual 9 a.m. Eastern, we're going to be doing
Can we announce our guest?
Eastern recording, 9 a.m. Central Time. I'll just say for now, we'll tweet it out once we know we're 100% good to go. We're expected to have a special guest that you guys are going to want to tune in for, and make sure that you guys are watching live on YouTube, on Twitter, and joining in the conversation. Stay tuned to our Blue Sky. Stay tuned to our Twitter. We'll announce it probably Wednesday or Thursday once we have it solidified and locked in. Don't want to throw it out there just in case something changes, but supposed to have a special guest here on Friday, Coffee and Celtics. Make sure you guys do not miss that one. Greg, any final thoughts here before we send the people out?
No final thoughts.
All right. That does it, folks. We will catch you guys later. Have a great week.
His free throw, Horford the rebound. Here's Pritchard. He loves these. Puts it up half court of the buzzer.
Every time we hit this high, I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor.